Do you ever feel like your emotions are a car you're sitting in, but someone else is behind the wheel? What if I told you that every emotional hijack actually expires in just 90 seconds, unless you personally renew the subscription? Here's the reality. Outrage is a habit. From a biological perspective, the chemical surge of a trigger is designed to completely clear your system in exactly 1.5 minutes. But we keep the cycle alive by rewriting the script and practicing our indignation. It's like having a bathtub with a wide open drain, but instead of letting the water out, you keep the faucet running on full blast. Next time someone dismisses your idea in a meeting, watch what happens. Your body is hit with a wave of cortisol. That's your 90-second window. But then the internal narrative starts. They never listen to me. And suddenly, you're still stewing at dinner time. Once you grasp this 90-second law, you realize you have a leverage point. You can let the flood drain away, or you can keep the water running. We all admire that person who stays unshakable while everyone else is unraveling. They aren't born with a different brain. They just know a secret you're about to master. You aren't a piece of hardware. They really know how to get under my skin. We utter this phrase as if we are helpless machines being operated by others, but nobody can engage a mechanism that you haven't installed. Here is the puppet master myth, the idea that outsiders possess some supernatural authority over your internal state. Mechanisms only function when they are wired to a power source. Those buttons are actually just unaddressed traumas or personal values being stepped on. When someone agitates you, they are effectively handing you a map of where you still need to do the work. Your colleague drops that snide remark that always pushes you over the edge. Rather than defaulting to a reflex, freeze and ask, what is the root of this tension? Perhaps it echoes the way a hypercritical relative used to speak. Suddenly, that colleague isn't manipulating you, they are exposing a sensitive spot. When you stop acting like a machine, you become the pilot of your own mental landscape. No one gets a vote on your mood except for you. Think about the person who irritates you most. What they provoke in you has absolutely nothing to do with their character. Here is a concept that will shift your perspective. What you identify as anger isn't actually the core feeling. Aggression is the psychological version of a bodyguard. It rushes to the front to shield more fragile states like rejection, anxiety, or inadequacy. When someone critiques your work and you get defensive, you aren't truly angry. You are wounded because they failed to acknowledge your effort. Rage feels more powerful than being vulnerable. So, it steps up as the primary spokesperson. Your spouse forgets your birthday and you erupt in a shouting match. But beneath the volume is a sense of neglect. Am I even a priority to you? When you speak to the neglect instead of venting the rage, the entire dynamic pivots. I felt overlooked generates a completely different outcome than you are always so selfish. When you train yourself to spot the emotion hiding under the mask, you can solve the actual problem. Openness repairs. Aggression just builds higher walls. Think back to your last major blowout. What was the fragile feeling hiding in the shadows? Between every external event and your internal reaction, there is a gap. Within that gap resides your autonomy. Most individuals don't even realize this clearing exists. Viktor Frankl realized this while surviving the horrors of a death camp. No matter the external conditions, you always retain the internal right to decide your outlook. The provocation hits, your veins fill with chemicals, but before you lash out, there is a tiny window of opportunity. When you learn to inhabit that window, you become the architect of your own life. Someone sends you a biting, passive-aggressive text. Your gut reaction is to strike back with a witty insult. But in that heartbeat before you tap send, ask yourself, which version of me will I be proud of when I wake up tomorrow? That inquiry unlocks your power. This interval is your psychological trump card. It is the difference between being a leaf blown by the wind or the mountain standing still against it. Think about the person who never seems shaken. They have mastered the art of living in the space between the hit and the reflex. You can do the same. What if you could monitor your moods like shifting weather patterns instead of being pulled into every hurricane? Deep within you is a spectator, a part of your consciousness that can watch the storm without becoming the rain. You can observe, tension is building, my pulse is accelerating. But you don't transform into that tension. You just watch it pass. This internal spectator is eternally still, always grounded. It's the faculty that thinks, I am experiencing the thought that this person is incompetent, rather than just believing, this person is incompetent. Your child rolls their eyes at your instructions. Instead of instantly snapping, engage the spectator. I notice a wave of annoyance cresting. Now you are analyzing the wave instead of being drowned by it. From this vantage point, you can select a tactic that actually improves the situation. The spectator provides you with emotional armor. You can feel any sensation without it dictating your movements. Recall a moment when you stayed cool while everyone else panicked. You were using your spectator. Now you can use it by design. What if the difficult people in your life aren't roadblocks, but rather heavy weights designed for your character development? This shift in viewpoint will alter how you perceive every antagonist. Every taxing individual you encounter is highlighting exactly where you need more strength. That overbearing supervisor? They are your coach for building endurance. That nosy neighbor? They are your sparring partner for practicing boundary setting. Just as a physical trainer pushes you through the burn to make you faster, these emotional coaches build your mental grit. Your demanding boss sends a 15th urgent request. Instead of thinking they are out to get me, try, they are helping me refine my ability to stay centered under fire. Suddenly, this isn't a personal attack. It's a high-intensity workout. You begin to respond with analytical calm. What specific data points will help you feel most secure about this timeline? When you view critics as coaches, you stop being the victim and start being the MVP. Every friction point becomes a chance to level up. Look at your most draining relationship. What specific muscle is that person helping you build? If you're finding value in this, engage with the video, share it, hit the bell, and stay tuned. I'm curious about your experiences, leave a note in the comments. Boundaries aren't barricades designed to shut the world out. They are filters where you act as the administrator. Here is the secret to protecting your battery without turning into a fortress. Healthy limits are like the skin on your hands. They allow you to touch the world while keeping bacteria out. You simply need to be transparent about what is and isn't allowed in your space. I hear that you're upset, but I don't engage in conversations involving shouting. Can we reconnect when the volume goes down? This isn't an attack. It's an assertion. Your colleague constantly vents but rejects every solution. Instead of soaking up their stress, set a perimeter. I value our friendship, but I can only dedicate 10 minutes to venting today unless we're looking for a way out. You are shielding your own mental health while remaining available. Limits allow you to keep your tank full so you can actually be of service, rather than burning out on someone else's chaos. You cannot water a garden with a dry well. Pinpoint the person who exhausts you. What specific filter would safeguard your serenity? There is a massive distinction between a tactical retreat and just running away. One builds authority, the other builds fear. Here is how to distinguish them. Frequently, the most dominant move you can make is to physically step away from a heated moment. This isn't a sign of frailty. It's a sign of high intelligence. You are granting your nervous system a chance to de-escalate and allowing your rational brain to take the wheel again. I need a moment to process this conversation. Let's revisit this when I can give you a thoughtful answer instead of a reactive one. You aren't quitting. You're preparing. Your partner brings up a touchy subject right when you walk through the door after a long day. Instead of biting their head off, try, this is a vital topic, but I'm mentally drained right now. Can we give this the attention it deserves after I've had dinner? You are showing respect for the issue and your own limits. Pauses stop the kind of damage that takes months to fix. 5 minutes of quiet can prevent 5 days of apologizing. We've all blurted out something in a heat wave of emotion that we regretted by morning. Pauses eliminate those mistakes. Everyone requires a breather. The adult way to do it is to request the break instead of just vanishing. Think of a fight that escalated because you were already at your limit. A strategic pause would have rewritten that history. You wouldn't navigate a minefield without a metal detector. So why move through your life without knowing your emotional triggers? Here is how to map the terrain. Your triggers aren't accidental. They follow a predictable script. People who mimic a dismissive parent. Scenarios that feel like a repeat of a past failure. Phrases that rub against old scars. When you plot these patterns, your own reactions stop catching you off guard. Ah, this person's condescending tone reminds me of that old teacher who never believed in me. No wonder I feel like getting defensive. Awareness is your shield. When you spot the tripwire, you can step over it rather than setting it off. Maintain a simple trigger log for 1 week. When you feel a spike in emotion, write down who was there. What was the specific catalyst? What old memory does it pull on? You will begin to see the architecture. I always get agitated by people who are late, or joking insults always bother me because my brother used them as weapons. When you recognize the trap, you can prepare for it. Foresight turns a reflex into a choice. You become proactive. Everyone has sore spots. Most people just live in the dark about them. Understanding yours is the definition of emotional maturity. Pay attention to what consistently rattles you. What is the common thread? That thread is your path to autonomy. You can offer someone your heart without giving them your nervous system. You can be there for someone without getting lost in their storm. Here is the way to find that equilibrium. An empathy filter means keeping your internal boundaries intact while keeping your compassion active. You can acknowledge someone's distress without taking it home with you. I can see you're in a hard place, and I'm here for you. How can I be useful without getting caught in the current? It's like being a rescuer on the shore. You reach out with a pole, but you don't jump into the whirlpool and drown alongside them. Your sibling is going through a messy breakup and calls you every night to cry. Instead of letting their grief ruin your sleep, say, I want to be your rock through this. Let's schedule a deep dive call on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and the rest of the week, let's keep things light to give us both a break. You are being a lifeline without being consumed. An empathy filter ensures you remain capable of helping over the long haul. A burnt-out friend helps no one. We all know someone who carries the weight of the world on their shoulders. That isn't helpful, it's just exhausting. Think of someone whose problems tend to become yours. How could you care for them without carrying them? You aren't reacting to what happened. You are reacting to your opinion of what happened. Rewrite the script. Rewrite your life. Here is how to become the editor of your own mind. Every time a trigger hits, your brain crafts a story. They think I'm stupid. They're trying to undermine me. But these are just guesses, not evidence. What if their short response means they have a headache, not that they are mad at you? The narrative you endorse dictates the feeling you experience. Your boss sends a brief, blunt email. Interpretation A, they are preparing to fire me. Result, fear and panic. Interpretation B, they are in back-to-back meetings and are being efficient. Result, focus and calm. Same text, different script, totally different biological outcome. When you start editing your stories, you stop being a victim of your assumptions. You become the deliberate director of your life. Think about a recent conflict. What was the story you told yourself? What is a second, equally possible story you could have chosen? Information is useless without application. Here is how to turn these insights into your new automatic responses. This is where the shift becomes permanent. Mastery comes from repetition, not perfection. Start with a single tool and use it for 7 days. When a spark hits, recall the 1.5-minute rule. When you feel the urge to react, find that interval. Each time you choose a new path, you are physically changing your brain. For the next 7 days, just try the Spectator technique. Every time you feel a surge, just say, I am observing a feeling. That is it. By the second week, it will feel natural. Minor, steady shifts lead to a total life redesign. The person who is never bothered isn't a different species. They've just practiced these moves until they became reflexes. You have the same capacity. Everyone respects a person with emotional poise. Now you have the manual to become that person. Imagine who you will be when no one else holds the keys to your peace of mind. That version of you is ready to take over.